Hi there. Counterfeiting is almost as old as currency itself. Imitation, after all, is the sincerest form of flattery, and as soon as little metal discs worth more than their weight in metal began to circulate, people began finding ways to copy, adulterate, and otherwise profit from said discs. Today we'll consider a few examples from my own collection of Roman coins that are faked, either counterfeited, imitated, otherwise not quite on the level. And we'll start with this one here. Now this is, or seems to be, a denarius of Antoninus Pius. Antoninus Pius, as you may know, was emperor from 138 to 161, successor of Hadrian and predecessor of Marcus Aurelius. This coin was issued by Marcus shortly after Antoninus died. It says, in fact, inverted because of my camera here in this image, Divus Antoninus on the obverse, the god Antoninus. And in fact, here on the reverse, we have the emperor's funeral pyre, that multi-tiered, there we are, multi-tiered pyre on which he was immolated, cremated, after his death, a symbolic gesture of his apotheosis and joining the gods. Now, this seems to be an ordinary denarius. It's the right size, almost the right weight. It looks, in fact, quite like the regular issues. But it is not a regular denarius. Now, if you look closely at this coin, you can't see it too well on the screen, of course. There are some suspicious cracks here on the flan. And look closer still, and you'll see dark metal showing through. The denarii of this period were supposed to be about 90% or so silver. This coin here is a thin layer of silver over a copper core. Somebody made money off this coin. This is what we call a fourrée, a plated coin. A coin made almost certainly by counterfeiters who worked in the mint itself, knew the process, could steal dies or imitate them, and create these coins that looked like denarii but were made much more cheaply, and pass them off as the real deal for a profit. The government itself, Roman government, actually made plated coins, in the 1st century especially, when there was a shortage of silver. But by this period, it seems to almost always have been mint officials on the sly, trying to make money from their position and their skills. Now, our second example is a rather sorry little coin, and it won't look good on screen, but it looks pretty bad here in reality too, so I won't apologize too much. You can see how small it is, much smaller than a dime, perhaps only, 8 or 9 millimeters across. And as you can kind of see here, it's a bronze that I cleaned, and so it's not terribly clear. It is a portrait of a man with a beard and a fancy crown. It's in fact we call a radiate, because it has a radiate crown. This is Postumus, the first Gallic emperor, that is, emperor of the breakaway Gallic Empire, which existed for about 15 years in the 260s and 270s AD. This was during the Great Collapse of the 3rd century, when the Roman Empire, under the hapless Gallienus, split into 3 sections. One central block governed from Rome, a western breakaway empire, the Gallic Empire, and of course a Palmyrene chunk, ruled by the indomitable Queen Zenobia. Now, this coin here is what we used to call, still do call sometimes, a barbarian or barbarous radiate. A radiate, again, because of that radiate crown. Now, it's meant to look like this. Let me get this coin up. This here, in my other hand, is an Antoninus. It's what we call the coins of the 3rd century, essentially, that were meant to be worth 2 denarii, but had only enough silver originally for 1.5. So it was a way for the government to save money and issue a larger coin. These things became the dominant currency for much of the 3rd century. We find them still in hordes and gargantuan numbers, and they were debased ever more aggressively as the government started to cope with rising prices and pay the troops, all the while, of course, causing inflation to get out of control by its very policies of issuing more and more of these guys. Now, this sorry thing here is meant to look like this, but was issued by a government that had less and less of the metal needed to make these discs. And so, both the government itself and it looks like local city mints produced huge numbers of these things just to keep money circulating. So it's not really a forgery, nor really an imitation. It's something in between. It's an unofficial currency minted to meet an absolute emergency in the very dire circumstances of the late 3rd century Gallic Empire. And so it's sort of a money made for the circumstance and only accepted by consumers because they had nothing better to deal with, although real money was being melted down or shuffled away to more prosperous places. Our final example is actually my favorite, but we'll see how well it shows up on screen. It's rather dark. Now this is what we call a barbarous imitation. It's not made by the Romans at all. It's made by barbaric people, or rather we say Germanic people, be more PC and more correct, working for the empire and making coins for themselves. So to back up a bit, this is, or rather is meant to be, the Emperor Constantine. Constantine, who ruled, again, as you may know, from 306 to 337, was a very successful emperor who has issued millions and millions of coins. They're quite common. And so there was no real shortage of his currency then or now, but there was in the frontier districts often a certain shortage of ready cash. And more importantly, when Constantine or his rivals had differing levels of silver in their currency, there was more demand to create additional coins for the emperor who was issuing, say, coins in a higher silver content. And this coin here probably dates from a period in which Constantine and his rival Licinius were having a sort of debasement off. And Constantine had more silver in his coins than Licinius did, and therefore had more desirable currency. So we assume that a German craftsman made this coin because it looks nothing like a Roman coin. It has a portrait, as you can see, but it's a very crude one. It would never pass for the real deal. And equally strikingly, so to speak, the legend, the letters on the sides, are gibberish. It's not good Latin at all. Whoever made this coin was probably illiterate, a craftsman who could see a coin and imitate it, but was not concerned with trying to make it look like a good Roman coin. He was making this for people who just wanted coins that looked more or less Roman, that were the right weight, the right metal, and could be used for the same sort of things. In other words, Germanic mercenaries living in the frontier zones. So here we have a Roman coin that's not a Roman coin, one that was created again for a certain purpose by people who knew what Roman coins looked like, but didn't care all that much about getting the formula right. So we have, in short, our 3 coins: a counterfeit, an imitation, a counterfeit, a fiat currency, and an imitation. And here we see the range of the ways money was used in the classical world, and the ways in which coins, ancient coins, both real and fake, so to speak, are often much more than meets the eye. So thanks very much for watching. Check out the other videos in this channel and those on Told in Stone, my main channel. And as always, thanks for watching.